And we're live. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. Say hi, Irishman.
Hi, Irishman.
And this is Dan. Both of us are real estate agents that span across the globe, depending which direction you travel. I'm in Arkansas, he's in LA, and it makes us the perfect host for a show called The Bearded Men of Real Estate. One of us is obviously Irish today. So, Dan, how are you enjoying your holiday?
I'm enjoying it quite well. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. I've got a green beverage.
Yeah, I just poured myself a Guinness. Yes. So,
yep.
I don't really subscribe to the it's 5 o'clock somewhere thing. Like, if I want a beer, I'll just grab a beer.
Right.
But
it literally is 5 o'clock on the general time code, though. So yes, it is 5 o'clock somewhere, and that's totally fine.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it quite well. I just cracked it. It's 10 a.m. here on the West Coast. So,
well, it's a worldwide show.
It's a worldwide show.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We have audio listeners in Clubhouse that are picking up the show. Some of them for the first time. I guess a lot of them for the first time, actually. We also have YouTube. We're trying to move most of our Facebook audience to YouTube, honestly. So if you're listening on Facebook, we'd appreciate if you'd also click the YouTube link and check that out. Just like Melissa Marr did, you could comment on the show and we could talk about you or your comment. She says Guinness and shenanigans. Yes, today is the day of.
You did what my brain did. I tried to combine Guinness, shenanigans and Guinness together. Yeah.
Yes.
Shenanigans.
Sure. So if you want to say something on Clubhouse, all you have to do is raise your hand and we can bring you up to the stage. And I can't really hear you until you'll hear me come to you. Like, it'll be obvious. I'll say, Matt, tell us what you think. And then I'll go on mute and then Matt will talk. And that's when we open the feed from the Clubhouse to the Facebook. And whoa, look at that. Whoa. Norm Ludwig, Dan's dad, commented on Facebook. Good morning, Norm. Thanks for doing the show.
By the way, Norm, you can totally stay on Facebook. We're trying to move everyone else to YouTube.
But we'll always have it there for you.
I don't want to go through all of that. We got him to comment. I mean, this early, 4 minutes in the show, he's already commenting 2.5 minutes into. But yeah, just a quick story. I used to always tell people, no, I'm Irish. Obviously, I'm Irish. And then, I don't know, I was like 25 or something. And I go to my dad, I go, so where are we really from? Like, we're Irish, right? He goes, dude, no. Our last name's Ludwig and my grandpa's last name was Zimmerman. Like, there's
German, right?
German. So at some point, there was someone traveled to Germany at some point, but like our immediate bloodlines, there's no Irish at all. So.
Well, despite my non-Irish look, I do have a little bit of Irish in me. So maybe I'm even more Irish than you are.
Possibly. Very possibly. I just have the look.
So this makes more sense to producer Matt's comment, who said Dan is a Viking for St. Pat's Day. Well, that may be closer than if you're not Irish. Well, if you hate banter and you're watching this on YouTube later, just look down in the description. We're going to have time codes for the articles that we're going to talk about today. You can click the article and zoom right to that portion of the show. You can also subscribe to our channel and you'll get chops, which are just short sections. It's a play on the facial hair, but it's just short sections of the Bearded Men of Real Estate show that cover each of the articles that we talk about. Today, we're going to get into unlucky iBuyers. There's something weird that's kind of happening in the iBuyers and in their market share. So we're going to talk about that. Refis drop, and we're going to talk about mortgage applications, and we're going to talk about home builder confidence dropping as lumber prices and material prices go up. 3D printed house developments. We talked about 3D printing house, I think last week. We've talked about it like a year ago too, but now they're talking about entire 3D printed house developments actually taking off. Yeah. And I think it probably was a result of our show. Then we're going to talk about a tipping point. And especially on the tipping point, like, we love, part of what makes our show different is that we take immediate feedback from people in the industry and some industry experts that are around the globe. And they can say, well, in our market, this is what's happening. In our market, this is what's happening. And I would specifically love to hear your opinions on these items. The iBuyer, if that's happening in your area, what you're seeing, the 3D printing. I want to know if that's taking off in your area. If anyone is in a location or can tag someone else or ping someone else, if you're in Clubhouse, that knows a builder who's building with 3D print houses, or if anyone's working a development of mostly 3D printed houses, we would love to talk to them and even get them on the show. I want the feedback from realtors around the country on that too. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm excited about the show. This is a lot of good information that we're going to have to squeeze into a very short time on a holiday nonetheless.
Yeah.
But Dan, before we get into all this stuff, would you tell people what this show is actually all about?
You know, I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met here on the interwebs about 4 years ago, he was actually following a rainbow and got to the end of it. And there I was with my pot of gold.
That's true. He's taller than I thought.
Much taller. I'm actually, you know, I'm actually well over 6 feet. And he was like, wait, I don't understand how this is happening. But
it's not like the cereal at all.
This is not like, you know, and, you know, I wouldn't give him any gold and there were no Lucky Charms. So it was kind of an unfortunate event for him. But, you know, that is how we met. He met when he was searching for the end of the rainbow and he found it. He's one of the rare people that finds it. But when Ray found me at the end of the rainbow, I noticed something very, very, very specific about him.
Really, Dan? What was this?
He used to be a pig farmer.
So actually, we visited a pig farm. Joel Saladin is the master of rotational grazing methods. And I was actually in Clubhouse talking about this. And we visited and thought about owning a farm. And part of the rotational grazing method is having not wild pigs, but having pigs on your farm that go through the fields and kind of help till it up and eat all the stuff. So yeah, that's not far from the truth, actually, Dan.
So literally, I don't know what I'm going to say when I noticed about Ray until I say it. And that I thought about 18 things and I was like, you know, I'm going to keep going. And he's still got something about it. But so I challenge every week with it. But I noticed obviously that he has a lovely beard. But I also noticed that he loves giving value up front to not only agents, but just to humans in general. So the show is about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah. And part of what we believe is being more is knowing what in the heck is going on. So you can share that with your clients so that they can make wise decisions about where they're going to spend their life and where they're going to live. I actually just posted something on Instagram earlier. And I was really kind of thinking like, you know, the decisions we make to work or not, the decisions as real estate agents that we make, I'm going to go door knocking today or nah, I'm not going to go door knocking today. That decision impacts where our clients spend a portion of their life. That's let that sink in. You know, that's wild.
And think about this one, Ray. Like you mentioned it last week, and I think you got a video circulating. I think it's gone viral at this point about I want to sell my house,
right?
But where do I go?
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, if we're not knowledgeable enough and we're not like committed enough to our own jobs to take on that burden, that is a big burden. So I'm going to sell your house, and your house is going to sell even in Ray's market, which is a slower market compared to mine. The houses are selling in hours. Yeah. He and his team are going to take on that burden of finding you a home and guiding you through that process. And if we don't have the commitment to at least better ourselves on a weekly basis, then why are we in this business? You know,
come on, preach. All right, let's get to some of the comments of people that are joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Mario Flores, he says, what up? Can't wait for the show. Debbie Rice Miller's checking in, who we haven't seen. She came by last week and now she's on time. That's great.
Yeah.
So she sends us some good luck. And Norm says, my mother had a lot of Irish blood. There you go. Okay, there you go. So
on
you
her hands. Oh, wait, sorry.
Lindsay Emerson's Jonas, she says hi. Melissa says, if we could get them by me, I feel like that would solve some inventory issues.
That's a 3D printed home. So yeah, let's save that for when we get there, because I want to hear all of that.
Okay. Gigantic leprechaun. Yeah. Okay. We get to free range pigs. That is literally what they are. And then all right, so I'm going to butcher your name. Dulcinea Jones.
Yeah.
She said many homeowners during quarantine did their DIY projects. Home Depot and Lowe's probably saw record sales. I can imagine builders are getting hit hard, passing the savings along to buyers.
Yeah, you got to put the savings in the
savings in quotes, air quotes there.
In the air quotes on that one.
Well, speaking of those articles, Dan, are you ready to get into the show?
100%.
Let's go.
It's so refreshing every time. Every time it's so refreshing.
And since Dan is our honorary, maybe not honorary Irishman, he's going to go first.
Yeah, usually Ray starts it off, but it's my day, or maybe it's not my day, but anyway, I look like it's my day, so I'm going first. But
Go for it.
our iBuyers just unlucky these days,
Yes, all with Irish accents, sir.
or is
Yes.
there something bigger happening? Well, prior to the Rona, I
Oh
can't.
my God. Yeah, that's not even a good Irish accent.
I can't do one, and prior to the Rona, it's very piratey when I do that. So anyway,
It
and
really
I'll
is.
just laugh through the whole thing. But prior to the Rona, real estate professionals were growing concerned about how Wall Street-backed instant offer companies known as iBuyers could impose on their business. So now my first question is, were we really concerned? So save that for the end. Were we really concerned about these iBuyers? Not just Ray and I, but everyone here listening. But the pandy has greatly impacted the real estate model's viability. Was it just the pandy that did this, though? That's my second question. Or was there something bigger at play? iBuying companies purchased just 0.3% of the homes sold in the fourth quarter of 2020. That's national, by the way. And that's up slightly from 0.2% in the third quarter, according to new research from Redfin. This is research from Redfin, who has an iBuyer program. They're not skewing these numbers at all. The report analyzed data from the MLSs and public records about purchases and sales made by iBuyers like Redfin Now, Open Doors, Zillow, and OfferPad. When you break them all out, the nation's leading iBuying companies purchased just 3,505 homes in the fourth quarter of 2020, which is down 48% from a year earlier. And that's according to Redfin. So the overall housing market has just been booming, and sellers are showing a preference for working with a real estate professional to nab top dollar for their home on the MLS. Bidding wars have become practically the norm for those who do. I would say more than practically the norm, by the way, just the norm. Shout out to my dad. Further, an inventory shortage means there are fewer homes for iBuyers to purchase. And then here's a quote from Myron Curry. And this is so interesting to me. He's a senior investment specialist at Redfin Now. He's like, still, we're being very aggressive when it comes to buying homes right now. It's all gas, no brakes. And he's in the Los Angeles area. And he goes on to say, the primary reason iBuyer home purchases remain lower than normal is the lack of homes for sale. But the inventory situation is improving each quarter as we get further away from the worst of the Rona. People are becoming more comfortable selling their homes as the larger share of the population gets vaccinated. So, and I want to end with this one, and then I want to open up for some comments. So I'm going to go back to my two questions. Was it just the pandy that kind of affected their model? And were we worried? And I'm going to end it with this one. This is a huge point of interest. iBuyers purchased homes for a median price of $284,000 in the fourth quarter, which is less than the median price of nationwide of $318,000.
So does that mean that they got a deal, or does that mean that the market share that they're working in is on the lower end?
Well, remember, okay, so if I open up the article, it's here. Hold on, let me open it up real quick. But if you want, are there comments on this? Go to the comments because I'm going to open this.
We got a couple of comments. Mario Flores says, first he says, I'm not wearing. I am. It's kind of a minty green. He said, I'm not wearing green. Why? It's like it's hard to tell because Dan is so green, but it is minty fresh.
Well,
right,
by the way, can you see my new lights behind me, Ray?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Look at all this stuff over here. Yeah. We got the lights going. All right. So Mario says iBuyer is so limited on what they can buy. Look at Open Door. They have so many contingencies present for you to sell to them. Only works for a small amount of consumers. Well, that is true. I think early on, and I'd love to get the comments from Clubhouse too. If you want to comment on this article specifically, just raise your hand. I'm going to pull to refresh so that I can see you guys. Be sure to raise your hand so that I could pull you up. But I think we said a long time ago that the iBuyer program was not really competition for real estate agents,
right?
But it was more competition for investors, and specifically the investors that would purchase a home, do the paint, flooring, and landscaping, and then put it back right out on the market and get some nice money, quick flip, make $20,000, $30,000 because the seller wasn't prepared to do any of that, and they took a good deal. And then iBuyers came in and they said, well, we'll pay closer to market value. So they're overpaying compared to what an investor would pay for these properties. but where they get you is on the fees. So they say, hey, don't pay a real estate fee, but you're paying the iBuyer fee like 10% on, and that's the number.
Getting well under market value.
Right. So although they're purchasing for more, the fees are more. And so it's hard for them. It's hard for me to see a way in which they make money only offering convenience as a real value especially in a market where everyone knows you can stick your home on the market and get 20, 30 offers. Like, how do you compete with that?
Yeah. Well, 20, 30 offers. And I don't know about your market, but I mean, I just lost out another offer for my luxury buyers. We lost out by $150,000.
Wow.
And no appraisal contingency and all cash. And then other ones I'm losing out by 20, 25 grand, where it's just they're going above appraisal and then they're going to pay the difference.
iBuyers seems to be a more effective program in a heavy buyer's market, but then they have to come in above where most buyers are going to. It just doesn't seem, I don't see where the margin is on there for them to make the money.
So a quick note, just the largest market share of the iBuyers purchases were in Phoenix, Raleigh, North Carolina, Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, and San Antonio. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's because of where they were buying. I would say it's just they're an investor, but they're packaged as a sell your home for less. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's an interesting concept. Patrick Ellis says, I don't think the iBuyers can keep up with the pace of the market. And I think that's what we're seeing too. Debbie Rice Miller says, no, it's not the pandy, because statistically across all markets, we have low inventory and high demand.
I'm still seeing investors getting properties. They have to pay up too. I think I discussed that on the show a couple weeks ago or so, but they have to pay up as well. And then their margin is just going to be slimmer, but still, when they come in as buyer, they're like, dude, we don't need an agent. We don't need any inspections. We're not going to ask for any repairs.
Yeah.
It's all cash. There's no appraisal. There are no fees at all. So
it's all convenience.
Yeah.
It's all convenience and ease. So,
we package like I can just hit a button and buy a house, or sell my house. And it's not really like that.
David Fresco says Wall Street is throwing money at iBuyers and will continue to throw money at the pandy. Slowed it down. So what we're talking about, Dan, is the difference in a white glove service and then a McDonald's hamburger, right? You can go to McDonald's, press a button, and get the same burger every time. No hassles. You're not going to change it up. You just go in and get the burger and come out, and it's going to taste the same no matter where you go.
Yeah,
that's essentially what they're trying to do with the process of selling your house. Just press the button, and we're not going to do any inspections or anything. No appraisals, no contingent. We're just going to buy your house for the offer that we give you, and then we're going to charge you these fees. Then they go in and do the work, etc. But it's got to fit their model, as Mario says. It's got to be a very specific model of a home in order for them to do that well. Because when they get outside of that consistency, it'd be like McDonald's trying to compete with Red Robin. If they get outside of what they can consistently produce every time with the budget they have, then they're going to blow their budget and it's no longer profitable at all. But we haven't really seen that it's been profitable in the past. All the stories that we talk about, iBuyers talk about how they're losing money.
It's all big losses.
Yeah, big losses. I don't know if they're just writing off the expenditures of purchasing the houses, and we're not seeing that. We talked about Zillow's strategy in the iBuying and how it was more of a marketing cost. And they came out and said they're not looking to make money with it right now. They're just looking to raise awareness with the program. This program, if you're not aware, I think we talked about it 3 weeks ago, or was it last week? I think it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where they will buy your house for your Zestimate. It's in 20 markets, about 500,000 homes. It's in a subset group of those markets. It's about 500,000 homes that are available for this. Again, small segment of the market, very specific to what they know they can do, and they're not looking to make money on it. So it's a marketing cost for them. If they could purchase the home and then add the inventory to Zillow and then sell 5 or 6 buyer leads to agents at a 30%, referral, then they're making great money on that. And if they lost $10,000 on it, they've gained $30,000 from the agents.
Yeah. And then remember, with the Premier Agent Program, those are monthly dues that are paid. You're paying that as an agent every month. So like the what do they call it? The Flex programs.
Flex program is the referral program.
Yeah, those they get paid on the back end. But like when you're just paying for leads, they're paid for. So they're making that money back either way. And it's, if they do get a listing and they sell it, That's just more leads and more income generating for them. So I get it, but specifically for iBuyers, is it a viable model that's going to stay around, and should we be afraid of it?
Yeah. Debbie Rice Miller said people and company owners have realized that they can work from home and accomplish just as much, if not more, at less costs to the employer. That creates a need for a larger home to accommodate the working from home.
Yeah.
One just closed in my market for $205,000 above asking price.
Yeah. So that one that we lost out by 150 grand, it was listed at $1,999,000 and went for 1.35. So we lost. It went 350 grand above asking.
Wow. Mario, he says undervalued cash offers from Open Door won't work in this market. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. What's the average education level for the city Sanchez? Which that's mean, David.
Well, I think it's what he means is it's a lack of viewers in those areas for our show.
That's right. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I got you, buddy. I got you.
Debbie Rice Miller says, my company will buy your home so you can buy without contingency. However, the purchase is lower than the market price. The difference between my company and the iBuyer program is that if any profit is made, we write a check back to the seller for 90% of the profit. Our model is to get the sellers back into their next property. That's a smart way to do it too. There's a couple of programs that we've talked about on the show that came out to do that as the iBuying became more popular.
Yeah.
There was one that Tim Heil of KW, he created, and it was one of those things where it's like hover or something. I can't remember the name of it. It started with an H. But it's one of those programs that they could basically buy your house, then give you a mortgage on your next house, and then sell the house and then close it all up.
Yeah, remember you sell your house to them, and then either they rent it back to you, or no, you rent the next one from them until or something. I forget what I think it was. You sell it to them, rent it back from them until you can buy your next house, kind of.
Or maybe they helped you buy the one that you're going. I think we've seen both of these models where they'll help you buy the one that you're going to, but they buy it. Then you rent it back from them while you sell your other house. And then once that sells, you cash out and do a refi. And
it's all under the guise of, or under the idea that you're now an unencumbered. I don't know if anyone else calls them unencumbered buyer, but that's what I've always, you don't have a home to sell is what I mean. You don't have that contingency in place. So all under the idea of you don't have a house to sell anymore. And we're in escrow on run right now for sellers that I had to do. I had to get them into, and they were my quickest buyer. It took me 3 offers. They got into escrow. So crazy. But they were contingent on selling their home. But it's because the listing went so quickly. And this buyer that we have, they ripped through contingencies. But now we're waiting on our up leg purchase. We're waiting on that seller to get into escrow now. So it's like these dominoes are literally like teetering, waiting to fall. Which way are they going to fall? And it's like, I keep pushing, like, dude, he's a kid. He's 26 and he's looking, this seller is. So I'm like, might have to do the move back in with mom thing for a couple months. And I know you hate it, but we got to close on this thing. So I get that idea of, hey, we'll buy your house, but just you got to find that right situation. And then how viable is it?
We have dominoes that are falling the wrong way today. So it's been well, if you have any comments on that in Clubhouse, be sure to raise your hand. We're about to move on to the next article. So
right there. If we were one of those have you ever watched those videos where it would zoom in on Ray and do it all black and gray, and it would be like,
yes,
hello darkness, my old friend.
Dominoes falling the wrong
way. We have dominoes falling in the wrong way, and he went right there. We could pause it and zoom in and go,
it's a stressful morning,
my own friend.
No. All right, well, let's get to the next article. It doesn't look like we have any more comments on that. Mortgage refinance demand drops. And the article says it tanks, but I changed the headline. So I rewrote the headline for St. Patty's Day. So here's the new headline. Mortgage refinance demand drops. No tanks to mortgage applications. Sorry, it's bad. I just thought it was funny. They said tank, and it's not tanking. The refis are tanking, but the applications to purchase are not tanking. So it's no tanks.
I mean, we don't all have to laugh. We're just happy that Ray's happy. That's all that matters.
Buddy, no tanks. No tanks to the new purchase applications. I'm terrible at that. Okay.
Wait, what was that?
I don't know. That's supposed to be.
Okay, mine wasn't that bad.
Yours was pretty bad. All right. So applications to refinance a home fell 4%. It's down 39% compared to the same week a year ago. Dun, dun, dun. So keep in mind that, I think we said this last week. We will see what happens as the purchase applications continue to increase gradually. We are going to see a point to where last year they shot up and it'll probably be lower. And so you'll see the purchase applications tank compared to the last year. Well, we all know last year was crazy and everything stopped for a couple of weeks in March. So right now they're higher. But I think after March is over on into April, when everyone started showing homes again, that's when we're going to see the applications to purchase are going to be lower just due to limited inventory.
I'm really curious to see the year ago numbers in about a month or so, because for us, it was like April 1st-ish around there, April 10th. And it was like, it wasn't even 0 to light speed in like half a second.
Right.
It was out of nowhere and inexplicable. And I still can't explain it. Yeah. A year into this, I still can't explain it.
So the drop is due to higher interest rates, which actually hit the highest level since June 2020. This is a quote: "After reaching the highest level since last week in January, the refinance index has fallen 26% to its lowest level since September 2020. It's Joel Kahn, an MBA economist. Rates have jumped 36 basis points since the end of January. Last week, refinance activity fell." All right, so that's refinance activity. As realtors, we're real curious what's happening to the purchase volume. Mortgage applications to purchase a home increased 2% for the week, and we're 5% higher than the same week a year ago.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it increased. Even with
interest rates, even with interest rates skyrocketing.
If you could call it skyrocketing. The purchase market helped offset the slump in refinances as the recovering job market and demographic factors drive demand, despite ongoing supply and affordability constraints, added Kahn. So it looks like as overall, the purchase demand is still there. If we could get more inventory, oops, I'm getting a call. Hang on. If we could get more inventory, it would seem that it would be even higher, because if you have 14, 15 people making an offer per property and you had 14 or 15 more properties on the market, then there would be that much more in purchase applications and people buying, going under contract. So it makes sense that if we figure out a way to loosen up demand, then I think we'd see a lot more as far as mortgage applications go.
Refis are going to be extremely sensitive, and they always have been. But I'm just so curious about how long are we going to have this conversation about when is inventory going to loosen up?
Right.
Chris, our broker, had this conversation the other day on one of our coaching calls. It was Monday morning, I believe. And he was like, essentially right now we're in 2006 and we can't really predict when it's going to happen, but it's just going to happen. Things are just going to stop. Buyers will just stop looking at properties. They'll stop getting pre-approved. It'll just stop. It won't be like a slow. It'll just kind of stop. And, it won't be the same as obviously 15 whatever years ago when things crashed because of people couldn't afford mortgage and stuff. It'll be different, but he's like, it'll still be kind of the same, in regards to it'll just kind of stop. And all of a sudden, homes that are going for 350 grand above, asking are going to have to maybe even adjust their price based on something else that just went into escrow. Like, it's going to have to be that touchy. So I'm so curious to see when that happens. And I don't even know. I couldn't predict it if you had a gun to my head. I just couldn't. No way.
Well, we've talked about the people that did not want to sell last year. They may be coming on this year, and the people that are going to sell anyway this year. And then you have the people that saw their neighbor sell and got a huge windfall. So they may all jump on the market, which would help loosen inventory. But I'd love to hear from some people around the country if you want to add into that. But Dan, why don't we go ahead and go to the next article, because it is going to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so Homebuilder confidence, it drops as interest rates. Nope, I don't know.
That's terrible. That's not even an Irish accent. No.
Yeah, that was like, I think I went Greek. I don't know.
But look at the Irish. All right, keep going.
Homebuilder confident. No, I can't. No. I'd have to practice much more. But anyway, Homebuilder confidence drops as interest rates and lumber prices rise. And we're still waiting on kind of big numbers from the builders, but we have some builder people that will be on the show sooner than later.
Yeah.
A monthly index measuring home builder confidence, because at this point we cover this stuff pretty much weekly or every other week. About this is specifically about home builder confidence, but just rising lumber prices and it just, we kind of cover everything quite often. But a monthly index measuring home builder confidence in the single family housing market fell. Got too drunk today, LOL.
Huh.
I literally wrote that. Got too drunk. No. All right, anyway. But the housing market fell as builders face rising interest rates and rising costs for materials, especially lumber. That's also known as wood. The National Association of Home Builders, or NAB, their index fell 2 points to 82 in March. Anything above 50 is still considered positive. The index stood at 72 in March 2020 and hit a high of 90, which was crazy, in November of last year. Excuse me. The latest results indicate that the housing industry might be in for a rough patch, even as the economy roars back. And I've never really
Wait. Hang on, Dan. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You said above 50 is positive.
Anything above, so 51.
And we're at 82.
82.
And the person that wrote the article says this could signal a rough patch.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
The latest results indicate, by the way, when we started, it stood at 72 a year ago and everything was fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think the lowest we've covered on the show was 68, 69, something like that. So it's always been above quote unquote 50, which is positive. But yeah, so it's interesting. And then the article title, Home Builder Confidence Drops.
Right.
Which I think it dropped 2 points as interest rates and lumber prices rise. By the way, and interest rates went up 1.03 or something.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. But this is a quote from Chuck Folk. He is the NAHB chairman. Though builders continue to see strong buyer traffic, so that's a good thing, right? Recent increases for material costs and delivery times, particularly for softwood lumber, have depressed builder sentiment this month. He goes on to say supply shortages and high demand have caused lumber prices to jump about 200% since last April. Whoa, wow. So that's a crazy number. Of the index's 3 components, current sales conditions fell 3 points to 87. Sales expectations in the next 6 months increased to 83, and buyer traffic was unchanged at 72. And here's a final comment or a quote I wanted to throw in. This is Robert Dietz. He's a chief economist for the NAHB. While single-family home building should grow this year, the elevated price of lumber is adding approximately $24,000 to the price of a new home. And mortgage interest rates, while historically low, have increased about 30 basis points over the last month. So is this, I mean, is everything fine? Okay. Right now, but are we like, what's this going to be in 6 to 9 months? Is this like doom and gloom in the future? Cause 24 grand, that's a big difference,
Well, it is, but at the same time, the prices are increasing more than that, and still the savings over a 30-year period at the historically low interest rates still trump the 24 grand. So I feel like I'm no editor, but I feel like a better headline for the article was lumber prices are 200% higher than they were a year ago.
That to me is and by the way, that article headline,
anything else that's happening based on that headline.
Yeah, that takes over, because then it just lets you go, oh man, 200. Yeah. What does that mean? Now I want to read the article, not some clickbaity. I think, Matt mentioned it. CNBC clickbait articles, never.
Yeah. All right. If you're a builder in the room, especially if you're on Clubhouse or if you're watching this live, I'd love to hear what's happening. And if you're confident, apparently you're 82 confident. It's not like a percentage. It's just.
I know. What even is the number? It's just a number.
It's 82. 50 is middle. Anything above 50 is positive. So if you are a builder, I'd be happy to bring you on stage if you're in the clubhouse as well.
What's it going to take to get below 50? That's my question. We've been doing this show for 15 years, and whatever, 4 years, and it's never gotten below 72 or 68 or whatever the lowest was. So what would it take to be that low? Like 200% higher than a year ago and all that stuff, and we're still.
It could get down to 20 or 30 if we have another 2008 and 9 situation. I think a lot of the builders remember that. And because that was so dire, they're like, this is great.
Yeah, if you've been in the game for 15 years.
Right, yeah. Yes, materials are higher, but this is great. Well, speaking of the cost of materials, one of the things that you can do is find alternative materials, which we've been talking about this. I would encourage everyone to go to a website. It's gablok.be, I believe. It's in another country, and just watch this video about how they're building these homes with alternative resources. Really, really cool. It's the way they're building them is fascinating to me. They can like have it up in just a couple of days.
Is it it's 3D printed?
It's called like a gablok, and they come in like 2 packs or 4 packs or like, and it's like real life Lincoln Logs. It's amazing. Anyway,
well, so it's kind of like the prefabbed homes we talked about a little bit, but then you just kind of piece them together.
Yeah, it's like Legos for this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So go there, check it out. I'll put something in the show notes about it. But this one is about the 3D printed developments. Let me bring up the right article.
Yeah, so we've covered we covered it first when they were a thing in other countries to help third world countries kind of just get housing for people. We covered it when they tried one here, and then we've covered it that, hey, it's a thing now. But now this article, I believe, covers like developments.
Yep. And look what we just said, the word prefab, and Christina M. Smallhorn.
Dude, she appears every time.
Every time we mention the word tiny house or prefab, she's already there. It's like Beetlejuice.
It is. Don't say it 3 times.
Mike Elizabeth Rodell said, dude, metal studs were way cheaper than 2x4s now. Mind blown. Well, they did go up 30% recently because we were talking about that on our show, and then the next week they went up.
So wait, I listen to metal music. I'm a metal stud.
Yeah. Chris Murray said they're a 3D printed home project in Rancho Mirage. Oh, you've got to go there and live stream it on for the BMORE, dude.
All right, I will.
Christina Smallhorn said, I have a folding house that connects like Legos. It's called Boxable, Boxabl.
What?
Yeah. All right, so let me get into this 3D printed house. Matt, if you could show people what these things look like. Barely a month ago, 3D printed house was listed for sale to the public for the first time in the U.S. Now, a small 3D printed community in Texas is following suit. There's another larger one in California, which may be the one they were referencing. In other words, 3D printed real estate is taking off in a big way. Icon is a pioneer in the 3D printed homes in the U.S., just completed their homes in East Austin, Texas, in a partnership with Kansas City-based developer 3 Strands. The 2 to 4 bedroom homes are now on the market, starting in the $400,000 range. Wow. I wonder how much it costs to build by comparison, and if the demand for them will be the same. Now, last week we showed a picture of them, and we said that it looked like, did we say it looked like icing, and then someone took one of those combs and kind of ran through the icing so you could see these
yeah, one of the like 5-prong combs to the side of it.
Yeah, Matt, bring up that picture. It's in the middle of the article if you can, so that people could see. I believe this is like maybe part of the home or garage. No, the other picture. Sorry. Oh, that is interesting. That's what the development looks like. These little boxes. Go down to the up, right there. All right, you see this?
Yeah, there you go. You can see it.
So it looks like someone stacked a whole bunch of layers of icing together, and we talked about how maybe making those smoother would be advantageous. But that's what they look like on the inside too.
Yeah. Can you though? And then can you 3D print stairs and like where the wood is, where it's showing the wood? Because that one looks like it just has a chunk of it 3D printed.
Right. A year ago, Icon printed 7 1-story, 400 square foot homes in Austin in collaboration with Mobile Loaves and Fishes. In Austin, not for profit. The homes are part of a community for the homeless. So yeah, we talked about that, how they were testing it for the homeless.
Right.
We talked about how they were testing it in other countries, and how if materials costs keep going up, then this may be a great alternative. They're basically made out of concrete, which it may just escalate the price of concrete. So I mean
so that's my question is, because does the article cover? I think it says they can print 41% of the home or something like that. And then the rest of it has to be traditional materials.
Yeah, it's not a full. Let's see, 3D printing process eliminates 99% of the construction waste and is 30 to 40% cheaper than a traditional construction.
Right.
Uh,
But then are they going to just still sell it for market value and then take the 30 to 40% difference? Or are they going to sell it for that much less and take it? You know what I mean?
I mean, they don't even have to go that much below market to make a gain on it. There is
No.
a rendering of a 3D printed community. Of course, these houses can look like anything, but this rendering in particular has flat top roofs with looks like solar panels on them.
Yeah. Everything's very modern, very 50s looking. Well, 50s here in California.
But then there are some kind of
That's
ranch
kind of cool.
style homes that have it's basically a box on the bottom, and then I'm trying to explain this for audio listeners. It's like a box on the bottom.
Yeah.
It goes up like a traditional barn on top of it. It looks like a box with a barn built on top. Now
Yeah.
the barn built on top is not 3D printed, but the box that's the bottom floor and foundation is all 3D printed. And then they have steel beams running through it too.
Yeah. And right now, steel is less than wood, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, it kind of depends. But yeah, it hasn't gone up as much as wood. It's gone up 30%, where wood and lumber has gone up 200%.
200%.
Yeah. There's a quote: "We're going to be graduating from homes by the dozen to homes by the hundred." That's the CEO of Icon.
Yeah, and I
So
think they're going to get going quickly. I think they're going to figure this out and just start going crazy. I really do.
Quickest path from imagination to built options.
And by the way, great question from Debbie. So Debbie Rice Miller, I love the 3D concept, but I'm not sure how the mortgage industry will feel about it. So what is will they lend on this? You know, and then what would be their hesitations? Like, why wouldn't they? It's still a solid. Is it built to code? Is the question, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's a concrete built home, so I would assume so.
Yeah, if I built not 3D printed, built a traditionally concrete home, put up the walls and everything in concrete, the mortgage industry would lend on that, right?
Yeah. And this kind of goes back to the building consumer confidence too. Mike Elizabeth Rodell said 4 to 6 offers that I had on my house were from folks that were planning on building because they can't find what they're looking for. But also, I have 2 buyers this month that are sitting down with builders to start the process, which normally I'm able just to get them to buy something existing. There's just nothing existing. So they would rather build and then be unhappy with the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some people that are rushing into the house saying, hey, we can make this what we want. There's other people that say we need something built. And so for all those who want something built, the problem they're running into is the more expensive material cost and land cost. So the 3D printed houses may be a viable option to take care of all that. Christina Smallhorn shows she's always lurking and stalking.
Yeah, I'm kind of with her on her next comment. The not cheap.
Yeah, that's not cheap. $400,000 is not cheap, but you are paying for a lot of the space. I wonder if that's still cheaper than what they would cost. How if they would have used traditional materials. So I wonder if they're still going below a traditional market house,
right,
in order for people to be tantalized by this new 3D printed home. You know, Matthew Clinton, producer Matt said, "Slap a Tesla solar roof on top, and I'm sold."
He's all things Tesla.
Yeah, those are coming down in price too. Alternative resources.
So that's my question: is what price do they need to price things at? And are people gonna go for it? Like, does it have to be 10% below market value to jump on these homes? And then are they going to be interesting enough? You know, like if you're buying an existing home or a resale home, you can buy a Victorian, you can buy a modern, you can buy one of 10, 15, 20 different styles, especially if you're around Ray. They have, a lot of our newer stuff here in Southern California since the 80s is all kind of the same brown box over and over again. But when you get the 70s and 60s and olders, you get very, very interesting and oftentimes one-off homes. So I'd be really curious to see if they're doing anything different than, because this is technically new construction, right? It's just a new way to do new construction. So new construction around me is oftentimes very small lots and the homes are very close together and they're all the same. There's 3 different models that are just flipped back and forth. And then one has a Victorian front on it, one has a Craftsman front on it, and that's kind of it. It's kind of boring. But I'm curious, is it just going to be another version of that? Or is it going to be interesting enough for people to actually jump into this and be like, dude, I'm in. I'm buying a 3D printed house. Put some Tesla panels on the top, and I'm buying one. I'm in.
I'm bringing some people up from Clubhouse because I want their opinion. Number one,
Awesome.
would they buy it, and would they sell it to their people, to your clients? I want to get to Mike Elizabeth Riddell. She said that will city ordinances prevent any of these? Little Rock banned tiny homes. Will cities hate them?
Why do you ban tiny homes?
Yeah, there was a movement for tiny homes, and people were trying to build them in these places with gentrification, and they said nope.
Huh.
This is not new. Sears used to make prepackaged homes. Well, but they're not 3D printed. That lowers the cost even further, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get to Antonio. Man, tell us who you are, where you work, and tell us what you think of these 3D printed homes. Have you seen them in your market? Oh, wait. I have to bring him up.
Phil County, Connecticut. I have not seen any of these in my home, in my market. I'm curious to see one. I don't know if I would live in one or if anybody around here would, but curious to see one though. Is there, and I was half listening, so I'm sorry if I missed this. Is there a price point to where these are being built?
Well, that's a great question. So last week we talked about one of the price points being around 300,000, and they said it was still 40% cheaper than a similarly built home. And that was, I think, the first one that hit the market last month. These homes that are in, I believe it was San Antonio. Was it San Antonio? It's in Texas, either San Antonio or Austin. It's all the same to me as an Arkansan. I think they're priced around 400,000. So it's not a cheap house by any stretch of the imagination. I think they are making them pretty bougie. What is your average market price, Antonio?
So in most towns around here, our average is about 500,000, but in the next town over, it shoots up to $1 million to $1.5 million. So we're kind of all over the place.
So I'm betting in your area because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think San Antonio's average is somewhere around 3 to 4. So I bet in your area it would be like 6 to 700,000. Interesting. So I'm wondering, I would like to get your opinion too, Lance. You are a CEO, and I know you're an active investor. Would you be looking to invest in some of these types of 3D printed home companies or construction companies? Do you have anything going in that realm?
We don't have anything invested, but yeah, nice to see you, Ray. My name's Lance Custon. I'm the CEO of Realty.com, and I am an investor also.
Which is Ray?
I'm located, I split my time between Boca Raton and Houston, and I haven't seen any 3D homes in the Boca Raton or the Houston market yet, but I am looking to buy a small ranch, and I would actually consider putting a 3D printed home on it.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm going to start shopping for your ranch in Arkansas, my friend. And, your website lists homes for sale and such like that. Have you had any 3D printed homes that you're aware of hit the market on y'all's site? And have you seen any kind of traffic around that?
Not that I've seen on the site itself, because we have millions of listings on the site for the whole country. So it'd be too hard to kind of find it unless we really start looking for the keywords 3D in the database. But we are speaking to a builder right now that does 3D printed subdivisions. And we've been kind of module stuff, and he's thinking about coming to Texas, so we might do a partnership with him on the website. So that actually could be a couple months down the road.
That's awesome. Well, as you explore that avenue, we'd love to hear more about it, and maybe even interview y'all, because that's pretty fun and exciting. And I also want to go to Carly. She's another native Arkansan. She's in Northwest Arkansas. You don't have any of these up there, do you?
No, we don't. This is the first I'm hearing of them, and they're super interesting. I wouldn't be surprised.
Wait, where's her
if,
accent?
A certain big family of Bentonville wanted to put them in near downtown in the future, though.
I could totally see that happening. Yeah, you're not far off. Okay, so Centerton, that used to be a place that had a bunch of small spec homes that's now just exploded with building in Northwest Arkansas, and it's totally different than it was. I was there in 2007, 8, and 9, and it has totally changed. So I'm wondering if these 3D printed homes may be great for areas like Centerton that was almost like rural development. It was a lot of small, like a 1,500 to 2,500 square foot single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, backyard, 0.18 acres of a yard. And if you did subdivisions like this in an undeveloped area, like Lance was saying, in a ranch area that was just on the outskirts of town, I wonder if you could get RD loans for it. And if the build quality would be a little bit better than some of what we're seeing for new construction RD loans. And if that would help pull the city out into those areas like it did in Centerton. So if you want to comment on that, just flash your mic and I'll come to you. If you're in Clubhouse and you want to add your 2 cents, just raise the hand and we'll pull you up. But
as we're talking about these, I'm thinking about what is the actual how do I say this? What is the actual need for a product like this? And what is the actual, like, will consumers buy these? Because if you're, so let's just say it's the one where they 3D print the box down on, I'm trying to explain it for the audio listeners. They 3D print a box downstairs and the box is your kitchen, living room, maybe a couple bedrooms and garage, but then they have to build on the second floor. That downstairs is like, it's all concrete, right? So, and it's not smooth. So where am I hanging my family pictures? Like,
so
do you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's anything like the Gablock, which they have theirs out of wood and there's this insulation material in the middle, but they have to go back and put a thin layer for the wall. And that's where they run the wires and all that stuff through.
Yeah. Like, do they come back and do like
on that picture that we saw, it had in the 3D print, it had plugs and stuff coming out. So that's great.
Different than like, if I want to, 18 crosses in a certain configuration on my wall, how am I doing that?
Yeah. Maybe they have special hangers that work with the 3D printed material.
Yeah. The 3M, those 3M sticky hangers. I'm just thinking kind of logistically, like they're cool, but are they all going to be super modern looking? Because I don't know. I mean, unless you're in specific markets, people don't always want super marketing or super modern. They want kind of cozy.
Yeah.
They don't want that, because I've shown some super duper modern houses that are, I mean, they are cool. They are dialed. They are picturesque, but living there would be like living in, a concrete cell, but they're cool looking.
Yeah, my producer Matt said the home comes with a concrete drill.
That's going to be there. Instead of free pizza with purchase, you get a free concrete drill.
Well, it's real easy to, you don't have to really paint and spackle or anything. You just put some concrete in the hole.
I mean, that's a great point, but you got to drill. You got to get those what are they called? Those setting bolts where they open as you screw them in. It's a whole thing. You can't just hammer in a nail and hang a picture anymore.
This is good. Okay. So let's get to the tipping point article. So as real estate agents and as an industry, one of the comments in the headlines of this article is that we have reached some kind of tipping point. The question is, what is that? Oh, wait, Ryan Kavanaugh, he says, would also wonder how the ability to modify these over the years, they may just be stuck that way forever. That's a good point. Like, you can't Joanna Gaines a wall.
Well, and a concrete wall. I mean, I guess you could put shiplap over it, I guess.
Yeah, shiplap that wall, but you couldn't remove it completely because it's probably all structural.
Well,
all
and
printed.
So to Ryan's point, think about like if there's a wall there that kind of closes off the kitchen. If it's wood, I just rip down the wall if it's not structural, and boom, open kitchen concept. How do you knock down a bunch of concrete because it's all structural, right?
Yeah. Melissa Mara says, I need to know how the heating system works. Cold weather don't exactly mix. Yeah, I had it. Well, that may be why they're building in Texas and California, right? I had a concrete guy tell me that concrete does 2 things in its life. It gets cold and it cracks. And you definitely would not want a crack going through your wall and then try to convince the buyer, just like we do on our concrete floors. Oh, it's totally normal. Stuff out of concrete, it has cracks in concrete floors. That's totally normal to have a crack going all the way through our wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe wood bends and tweaks with the movement, especially here in California where you have lots of earthquakes, even little ones. It all moves with that stuff. Will a concrete 3D printed home do that?
Matt Clanton said, producer Matt, I'd assume in production they'd have a layer of drywall. Probably, maybe. We'll see. I haven't seen a finished product.
Probably, maybe.
Dusty Martin says, yeah, they look cold, hard, and uncomfortable to me. I always find it hilarious when I hear architects say things like, I wanted to create something that pushes the bounds of design and do something no one has ever done before. 2 years later, behold my square
Right.
concrete box.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can get too cute by half, is I think the Southern term.
There you go. Mario with a great point. A very realtor saying, the crack on the wall gives it character.
I can totally hear a realtor say that. That's the rich patina of a 3D printed home. Is the crack on the wall.
that makes this home unique. There's no other house with cracks like this in the walls.
Oh my gosh.
So, Ray, are we at a tipping point?
No.
Okay, so this article disagrees with you.
What?
This is from CNBC. The housing market stands at a tipping point after a stunningly successful year during the Rona. We can't say that word. We have to say the Rona or the pandy. And I'm reading this article, so forgive me if I'm going to try to, because, you know, we're realtors first, by the way. So we host the show, but we're both busy. So I'm just trying to get through these things. But no one could have predicted it. Well,
no one.
I mean, someone could have, but not the economists, not the real estate agents, and especially not the nation's home builders, but the Rona.
And not Susie Orman. Sorry.
No, by the way, we haven't thrown shade her way in a while. She was so wrong. By the way, her prediction was for what, November of last year?
She said in the summer when I was telling all my clients, buy now. She said, she came out and said, don't buy. You should wait until October, November, December of 2020.
Which was only a 3 or 4 month prediction. That was it.
That's when the market would settle and you'd pay less for a home.
By 50%, she would say.
Yeah. And what has happened? You're paying 20% more. Anyway, sorry. I had to throw that out.
Susie, you were wrong. And by the way, not you continue to be wrong. Today proved you wrong. Tomorrow's going to prove you wrong. And even if a correction comes in the coming months, you're still going to be wrong.
She is not. I've called for an apology. She has not apologized. All right. Keep going. Dan, sorry.
But I digress. But we digress. But the Rona has caused an emotional run on housing unlike any other. So now 1 year after the Rona shut down and warped so much of American life, things are still unpredictable, but the outlook isn't bright for housing. In fact, it looks like the perfect storm for a correction. And we describe, or we define a correction as what, Ray?
Usually a correction in the stock market's a 10% change.
Okay.
So it's a 10% drop normally.
Which if we're 25% higher than a year ago on, you know, that 10% correction isn't going to be that big a deal. But we're right now 10.3% over a year ago, I think, on what houses are selling for. But home prices are overheated. Mortgage rates are rising. The supply of homes for sale is anemic, and consumer confidence in the housing market is falling. Rona-related mortgage bailouts are set to expire this summer. So a year ago, home sales ground to a halt. No one wanted to buy or sell or even enter a home, given all the physical and economic uncertainty that the Rona brought. I'm translating it as I speak, that the Rona brought. But just a few months later, housing hit the gas pedal and prices followed. The frenzy was hugely emotional, and the nation saw most aspects of life suddenly confined to its properties. Space became a major asset. That's where I want the pool at home. I want the workspace at home. I want the extra, schooling space at home. It was also fueled by very attractive mortgage rates, which set more than a dozen record lows throughout last year. After plunging nearly 18% from March to April and another 10% from April to May, sales of existing homes shot back up nearly 21% in June, according to the National Association of Realtors. This is a quote from Lawrence Yoon. The sales recovery is strong as buyers were eager to purchase homes and properties that they had been eyeing during the shutdown. And he is the NAR's chief economist. And he said that at the time, so a year ago. This revitalization looks to be sustainable for many months ahead as long as mortgage rates remain low and job gains continue. So Yoon was right. Mm-hmm. Home sales were not only sustainable, they were robust. By August, sales were running at the fastest pace since 2006, which I mentioned earlier in the show. So I want to break it down kind of to where we're at now. So mortgage rates, the average rate on the popular 30-year fixed mortgage began 2020 right at 3.75. It then fell at the start of the Rona in March And then what did we get down to, Ray? 2.5%?
No, I think the lowest I saw was like 2.7, 2.6, something like that.
Yeah. And then refi rates were in the 2.25, like something crazy. So
Yeah.
now rates are moving up again as another financial stimulus passed and the economy begins to finally open up significantly. The recent jump in employment should keep rates on an upward trajectory. So, and then there's some graphs. Again, if you want to go to it, this one's CNBC. Let's see, who's this from? I think this is from you again. The home sales market will experience countervailing. That is an interesting word. Countervailing forces of the higher push from more jobs, but also the pullback of higher mortgage rates, said Yoon after the February employment report was released. We will have to wait to see which force will be stronger. So here's the biggest one. So to me, home prices. So low mortgage rates last year combined with a low supply and high demand for housing lit a furious fire under home prices. By January of this year, prices were up more than 10% year over year, and prices are now rising at the fastest pace since 2006. In some markets like Seattle, Phoenix, and San Diego, the gains are even larger. The final point I'll make, then we can get some points on this, but there's an epic housing shortage. So mortgage, just to recap, mortgage rates are climbing. We're 10% higher on sales prices than a year ago. And there's also an epic housing shortage. So there were nearly half as many homes for sale at the end of February compared with a year earlier. Low supply was exacerbated by a drop in the number of new listings to come on the market in January and February due to exceptionally icy weather in much of the country. So I want to stop talking, but that kind of gives you guys a breakdown of what's been happening. So are we at a tipping point? Is it just going to explode any minute? Is our homes just going to stop selling tomorrow? Where are we at? Like, tipping point to me means we're teetering on disaster, right?
The other way. Chris Murray says the Fed just announced no rate hike. All right. So is that good or bad? So the Fed, I have a video on this on YouTube, but the Fed has a two-pronged job. One is to maintain full employment, and the other is to not have inflation happen. So full employment, by definition, is 4 to 6.5, I think it is, or maybe it's 4.5 to 6. That's what they would consider, quote, full employment. And the Fed's job is to make sure that people can borrow money enough to where they can produce enough so that we hire enough people. Now, you could get to this point where everyone's got a job and rates are so low that they're like, wow, let's just buy all the things. And when that happens, producers can't produce enough to keep up with the demand, which is kind of what we're seeing in new builds.
And FYI, Ray, as of March 5th, we're at 6.2% unemployment.
6.2. So we're almost at what would be considered full employment, 4.5 to 6%. So when that happens, when everyone's got the money and they're buying all the things and the producers can't keep up, then the price of things begin to increase, and that is inflation. So the Fed says we're not raising the rates, which means, but as soon as we start to hit more of the full employment numbers, that's when I would see the Fed raise the rates, right? I mean, surely that's going to happen fairly soon.
Right, but
you have to avoid inflation.
You have to. And if more jobs come back and more people are working again, and there's a big push to, move up the national minimum wage and all that stuff, and more people make more money, wouldn't that still mean homes are affordable if they're still in the 3.5% range?
You would think, well, over time, yes, but the initial cost is what they're looking at, the initial cost versus the increase in income.
Right. But what's the tipping point is what I'm, the article laid out all these things that are happening, which we've talked about, but what's the tipping point?
I'd love to get some thoughts on this from the people in the comments too. Chris Murray said, and also people in Clubhouse. So what is the tipping point? If you're familiar with what the tipping point might be, let me know. I think it's got to be different than it was in 2007 and 8 and 9, but because it seems like the lending constraints are still pretty tight. So
yeah.
I'm curious, what is the tipping point?
They were pretty loose back then.
Right. All right. So the thing with the tipping point is that things teeter until they fall. Think of a building being demolished. There's substantial longer time invested into getting to the tipping point, but when it tips, it falls fast.
Yeah, which is what, by the way, when I mentioned Chris earlier, that's my broker. That he mentioned that on Monday's call.
So what would tip? What would cause it to fall?
That's what I want to know. What causes it? And Chris worked through this. I think he got licensed in 2002. So he worked up to this and through this, and then is still obviously successful today. So I'd love to hear.
I was licensed in 07, and we had a phenomenal 4 or 5 months, and then the world state just like stopped. Debbie Rice Miller said a tipping point might be the economic fallout from the Rona, supply and demand. But supply and demand doesn't really create a tipping point. It just creates a point of inflection in which you have buyers who want a house, sellers that don't want to sell the house. And then the buyer demand, as that shifts downward, if buyers say, I'm giving up, I'm not buying a home, then the supply becomes more than the demand and the prices begin to adjust down. That's a slow process generally.
But that wouldn't be a 10% correction. I mean, maybe slowly, but not a tipping point to where it's just going to go, oh.
For all the recessions they've been tracking, there's only been 2 that have lost money. One went down 1.9%. The other one went down 19%.
19, yeah.
That was 2008-9. All other recessions, home prices have increased 2 to 6%. So I'm trying to figure out no one has the answer. We're at this tipping point of what? What's going to tip it? It's not subprime mortgages this time. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Mario has a good comment.
Mario says, lending in 2008 requirements. Can you breathe? Buyer, yes. Lender, approved.
Boom. Letters out. You guys got it.
And that was in the video I did about Susie Orman. I kind of reenacted that process. Debbie Rice Miller said, the economic issues are a long-term problem that can all of a sudden downslope quickly. This is not a recession. This is an economic issue. So I would say, if I had to guess the tipping point, unemployment's pretty good. I mean, it did get up to 14% in October.
Okay, well, it came back quickly. So think about all the people, because I know that for burned numbers, if you haven't seen for burned, you need to go over to the Beard Men Real Estate Show and you need to see our for burned video. It's amazing. Anyway, but forbearance numbers are down, but still at some point, the economic relief is going to run out.
Okay, so let's play
that to me.
Let's play that out. Economic relief runs out. I think the portion of the market that was in forbearance is somewhere like 5%, if I remember correct.
Yep.
Maybe we can get somebody to check our stats on that. If that happens, right, everyone that's in forbearance forecloses. What will that do?
5.29% as of a month ago.
Okay. So what will that do? That will add 5% more inventory to the marketplace.
That's what I've said, and I know the point was
I know, but then buyers are going to be like, finally, some inventory,
and some inventory that might be a little more affordable if people have been living in those homes and not being able to pay for them for a year and a half.
Right.
The value may be that. Well, okay, but wait, Ray.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll correct the prices down that 10%.
That could be the 10% correction.
So there you go.
From the prices and the more competitive. It would be a more competitive for sellers on the middle to low end of the market. But I still don't see a tipping point. Let me go to Clubhouse. Lance, you're a smart guy. What is the tipping point, man? What are these people talking about? Oh, wait, we got to bring you up here.
And it could be, it could be completely wrong, and or there could be enough people see equity in their homes and too many people start trying to sell. I don't know. It's just so hard right now. This is not what it was 10 years ago. So it's a whole different animal now.
And in the case where too many people start trying to sell, it adds inventories, which increases affordability for the current buyers.
Well, we're also 3-point-something million homes short. So it's going to take a lot of these homes to fix that gap.
What do you say, Lance?
Well, with the short, it's like there is no tipping point. The market's super high. Even if it went down a little bit, a lot of people are still in the homes that they were in, 2-3 years ago. It's not like millions of people have moved. So even if this rock star market went down a couple percent or corrected a little bit, I don't think that's going to be the tipping point. And even if a bunch of these foreclosures happen, there's been enough equity in these homes for it to go up, for the homes to go up to people to actually sell the homes that they need to sell. It's not like they're going to be upside down. And the market went the other way during this entire crisis.
That's another great point. Yeah, people selling that have plenty of equity, but they haven't been paying their mortgage. So technically, it's going to be Chris mentioned this too the other day. Technically, it's a short sale or you're in foreclosure, but you have $300,000 in equity.
Yeah, the before the pandy, we were talking about how there was $2 trillion wrapped up in equity around the country, and now it's even more because of the price increases that have been happening.
Yeah.
But let's say they haven't been paying their $1,500 a month for 6 months. That's what, $9,000.
Yeah.
Well, they could put their home on the market right now and get way more than $9,000 over the market value of the home. So they could cover the forbearance cost, they could cover the real estate fees, title cost, and everything, and then still walk out with a good amount of equity.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. I don't see that as a tipping point. So, all right. Well, we don't have any more comments on there. No one else is raising their hand. Oh, wait, Lance said something else. What was that, man?
Yeah, just because of how much the market's gone up and everything that's happened, it's just like there is no prediction of what this tipping point can be because there's just so many different variables compared to what it's been in the past.
It's almost like they needed people to click articles to sell advertising.
Chris has a good point. You want to bring up Chris's?
Let's see. There he goes. When buyers give up, sellers panic and list in droves. The buyers stop buying due to being defeated, priced out. It does happen overnight. And this is not a slow process. Decades of real estate market resets have proven it happens quickly with little warning. We shall see, Chris.
Okay. So I'm just going to say there's no tipping point. It's not a tipping point in my 10 years in real estate. I don't see it that way, but I listen to Chris. So I still have what, Chris is dude, one of the most knowledgeable guys I've ever met,
Yeah.
Especially with real estate. I just mean in anything, but really in real estate. And he's usually dead on about things. So while I don't think this is a tipping point or there will be a tipping point, I still, in the back of my mind, I'm like, Chris is probably onto something. So we need to prep for that.
He said, this is what every agent told me in 2005, and
Right.
builders have been in their projects for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. They did. But, back then, especially in the area that I was working at the time, if you had a cell phone and a pickup truck, you could be a builder. And so it was low barrier.
Well, and
everything, including
Chris and Drea also do lots of foreclosures and stuff too. So there's a shadow out there that they're seeing that maybe a lot of us aren't.
Okay, so let's play out his scenario too. I think the only way that continues to happen. All right, so I'm going to put it back up here. Buyers give up, sellers panic and list in droves because, hey, this was our opportunity. We're actually missing the opportunity. There's more supply. And so they all throw their home on because they actually do want to make a move. And then the buyers have just kind of left the market. What would cause them to leave the market? If they see a bunch of people listing, you could argue that's going to cause them to come back onto the market. And if the people are listing and they're listing at lower prices, then they're more encouraged by that. But the thing that could keep the buyers from entering back into the market is if the rates increased at the wrong time. If the Fed raises the target, the rates go up to 4.5%, 5%. Right. Then I would say that you're going to have a lot of people totally discouraged about jumping back into the housing. And maybe then worried about the crash and then worried about, well, if I buy this house, it's going to go down in value. So I could see that.
But then won't it be if the interest rates go up, but that price comes down enough to where it's compelling, but then it's still just a correction, not a tipping point.
Well, yeah. And he makes the point that I was going to talk about too. If the buyer does give up and then they sign the lease, and they're in a 12-month lease.
12-year lease. That's crazy. But yeah, he meant 12 months. Yeah.
If they're in that 12-month lease, then bam. Chris Burr says, DR Horton, Lennar, KB halted construction in our area and waited to resume until 2017. Yeah. We'll see. I think builders are a lot more measured than they were back then, it seems. They're not building them as fast. Back in the start of 2020, housing starts were up 13%. They've actually decreased. That was another article that we saw. The housing starts have decreased 10% versus the predicted 2.5% in February. So we'll see what happens from it. But until then, Dan, would you tell everyone where they can find yourself?
Irishman D-Lettergrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS everywhere, but just go over to Instagram. Give me a follow. My stories are often very interesting and very fun and very controversial. I'll just leave it.
Very controversial. You can find me at Ray Zorback, RayZorback. If you're listening on Clubhouse, just click my head, and then you will see.
That's always funny to me.
And you'll see the little Instagram thing at the bottom there. Just follow me on Instagram. Shoot us a DM. If you know of any 3D printed builders, I'd love to have them on the show, because that would be really interesting to hear more about the process, how it works, and man, I'd love to take a visit out there. So, all right, well, cheers to everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and thanks for joining the show. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.